We all remember President Reagan, who said that freedom is a fragile thing and never more than a generation away. As my son, who was married this past summer, now 6 months married, so far so good. We know that there's a second half of that famous line that hits home. Because if each of us, if we don't pass that freedom to our children, we have to put it in their bloodstream, it can be lost. And I am confident none of you are ever going to let that happen. Thank you and bless you for that. But we're reminded that we got to fight for it, we got to protect it. We can't hand it to them, it won't be handed to us. And I think that's why it feels different this year. The future of our American miracle is on the line in a way that I've not seen since, goodness gracious, since maybe I was in high school. Just a few weeks ago, I watched the Chinese fly spy balloon over our ICBM fields. Someone asked me if that would have happened if I was still there, and I said, well, had it, I would have been the former Secretary of State. We've watched Russia invade Ukraine, driving up costs for each and every one of us here at home. I think of my home state of Kansas, where fertilizer to put crops in the field is more expensive now. And they're threatening our friends around the world as well. But of course, those sometimes seem a little far away. These threats are inside the gates. They're here at home. Indeed, although I served as Secretary of State, my first job was as an assistant manager at Baskin-Robbins. So I know things here too. Somebody's got 31 flavors up. Yeah, excellent. Look, our greatest threats are here. They're from within. It's the real challenge we face today. We're losing respect for individual freedom. A unified faith in the American purpose and a shared commitment to pass this miracle on to our children is at risk. But I think last year, 2022, the second year of the Biden administration, was a wake-up call for all of us, for conservatives, for those of us who have these long-held deep beliefs that aren't new to this fight. We should have won big. I'm happy that we won the House, but we barely captured it. We see inflation, gas prices, high border crisis. We all know these problems. Others have spoken about them, but we didn't capture that. We lost 3 elections in a row, and the popular vote in 7 of the last 8. There are many reasons for this, but one of them is I think they've lost trust in the conservative ideas, and this is the task that's in front of us. And I am convinced we can do it because we're right. My mom and dad taught me to hate losing, and it is in my bones. The book that was just raised was my book called Never Give an Inch. Losing is bad because losing is bad, but the principles that we stand for are what's really at risk. And it's not a political problem. The problem is that the losses are a symptom of something much bigger. I think it's a crisis in conservatism. We've lost confidence that we are right. It's not just a crisis of competence, it's one of character as well. We need to get everyone who understands America and our Judeo-Christian founding back in this movement, in the same way we know can be done. A basic return to these central ideas, not only in the way we talk about it, but the way we act, our deeds, every one of us. So what's that look like? What do we do? I'm convinced we're unstoppable when we are fully committed to freedom, equality, the basic things we all know, an unwavering faith in our founding principles. That belief, that faith in God, who gave us all of our rights, got me through my time as a young cadet at West Point. It sustained me when I was a young soldier, tank platoon leader on the Freedom's frontier in East Germany during the Cold War, fighting alongside my fellow soldiers, ready to do America's work and deterring the bad guys in that time of conflict. It allowed me to have the opportunity, this central idea of American greatness, to stare down some of our toughest foes and most committed enemies when I was the 70th Secretary of State. It always makes me laugh. I was the 70th Secretary. President Trump was the 45th President. So I'm always reminded I had more turnover. There's more turnover in my job than his. 4 years, we did well. I've had the chance to learn with tough lessons on the front line in the fight for freedom that these ideas, these principles, they're not just things we come to CPAC and talk about or that we share with our friends, the things we do at the toughest moments to share our destiny with each other, having faith in the mission and the confidence that we can actually execute in a way that delivers good outcomes for our kids and for our grandchildren. I think these ideas have lessons for the Republican Party, too. We've been given an awful lot. That means we're required to do a whole bunch, too. We've been given this freedom. We've been entrusted to protect it. We must live up to that expectation, both in our character and in the results that we achieved. We need a party, a conservative party, that we can be proud to call home again, rooted in our founding ideas, led by people of real character, competence, and commitment to the mission that brought you all here today. Restoring an America that is not only great, but moral, muscular, decent, ready to stare down the forces of unfreedom, not just on Twitter or in the media, but in every place this miracle today is under threat. You all see it. I was out last year campaigning hard. Every parent knows what's going on in our schools today, and they've had about enough of it, and they're standing up. They're taking it to every corner of America, protecting our youth from the teachers' unions, people like Randy Weingarten, who are indeed dangerous to our country. We have to also show why. To show why and how we're different from the left, embracing conservatism that sets us apart in substance and style, and our commitment to values. Liberals look for solutions in the government. We know that's dangerous. Don't hand that government more power under the guise of conservatism. We shouldn't look for larger-than-life personalities, but rather we should find power in the rooms like this one, people all across the country. And I'm confident we're going to get there. A renewed dedication to accountability, personal responsibility, and results. This is the thing that has made the conservative movement and our party successful for decades. We can't become the left, following celebrity leaders with their own brand of identity politics, those with fragile egos who refuse to acknowledge reality. This is a tough world, both abroad and here. And we can't shift blame to others, but must accept the responsibility that comes to those of us who step forward and lead. Over the last few years, I've heard some who claim to be conservative excuse hypocrisy by saying something like, well, we're electing a president, not a Sunday school teacher. That's true. But having taught Sunday school, maybe we could get both. It's time for us to make sure we're living out these very things we're asking others to do. These external threats, these internal threats that we face today, they're a challenge to American sovereignty, our traditions. I think back to my days as CIA director and my very first meeting with Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang. President Trump had asked me to go there to try and right the ship of our relationship and try to get the nuclear weapons out of Chairman Kim's hands. I'd prepared for the moment for months. We had lots of things we thought we would talk about, but his first words to me were, Mr. Director, I didn't think you'd show up since you've been trying to kill me. That was not on my bingo card for things he might say. So in the moment, I said, Mr. Chairman, maybe I still am. Thankfully, he laughed like you did after it was translated. But while a touch humorous, I think it was important. He knew that I was serious and that we were going to protect America no matter the cost to any one American. The threats we face today are no less demanding than those that faced our parents and our grandparents who fought in World War II, in Vietnam and Korea, and the young people today who fought our wars in the Middle East. This challenge that we all hear so much about from the Chinese Communist Party, this challenge threatens every aspect of our lives. Sometimes we think about China, we think about Taiwan, right? That seems a long ways away. The real challenge from China is that they are inside the gates. They're here gathering intelligence through technology that are on our cell phones. They're here propagandizing. I directed the closure of the largest spying operation ever conducted inside the United States of America. The Chinese government was doing this from our diplomatic facility in Houston, Texas, of all places. We shut it down. No other administration would have ever done that. I'm not one for vindication, but this week it was good to see the Department of Energy finally conclude that the damn virus came from the lab in Wuhan. I nearly lost my job. I nearly lost my job as Secretary of State for publicly ripping into China over what happened. This COVID virus that they foisted on the entire world, killing millions and affecting every life in this room for years and years. You know, I contradicted the official American line that had been in place for 40 years. People who said, boy, Xi Jinping's doing a good job. I was told to shut the heck up. But we should never shut the heck up when we're defending the United States of America and its people. It was wrong to praise the Chinese Communist Party when I went on TV in March of 20, seems like a long time ago, 3 years, and said, I think this virus came from the laboratory. It was called racist and worse. But the data was as clear then as it is today. And it's not that particular instance, but the idea of protecting America by speaking the truth that matters most. Because these challenges, they're great, they're real. I make no bones about it. But we've all faced similar challenges before. We're pretty tough people. And I'm convinced you are every bit as tough as those folks who came before us. They fought for a war for independence. They fought in World War II, the Cold War. We took down the evil empire. We took down the radical left in the 60s when they were trying to begin the change that we see now back being foisted here at home. And it's these internal threats that are the most dangerous, by far. A free people can't survive an unrelenting growth of government. And we should be candid here too. Pervasive regulation, taxes, government controls, these are the things that are driving inflation and make your eggs so expensive today. But just as importantly, they erode the American commitment to the dignity of hard work. Those of us who get up every day and get after it. The fairness of playing by the rules is abrogated when government steps in and awards bonuses to people based on something other than the fact that they worked hard and were decent and good. And more importantly, it erodes the fundamental decency, the goodness of doing what is right every day. You know, I mentioned the midterms in 2022. I'm still not quite over it. Not because of me, but because it's still impacting things here in America. And while the House can stop the craziest of stuff, we can't begin to right the ship in the way that is necessary. We lost race after winnable race because voters didn't trust us to do any better than the tax and spend liberals. We knew the story, but we hadn't demonstrated through deed that we were actually prepared to do the things we were saying we could do. You know, I stare today at $31 trillion in debt and tell my son, make sure you work hard because Social Security may just not be there for you. Every recent administration, Republican and Democrat alike, added trillions in dollars to our debt. That is deeply unconservative. Trump administration, the administration I served, added $8 trillion in new debt. This is indecent and can't continue. Earning back that trust will be hard work. It won't just be a campaign speech. It won't just be talking about it. We need demonstrated seriousness, people who will explain to the American people and to their kids and grandkids why this matters. These will require tough choices, difficult choices, but the risks required are worthy. We can never give an inch of American sovereignty at home or abroad because a free and sovereign nation requires each of us to be free, and big government destroys that. We need to reconceptualize this too. As a former soldier, we need a renewed commitment to true equality. I've talked about this a bit. Equality is the promise that makes being an American something exceptional, something unique, different than any place else in the world. In America, it's not an identity. It's not about wealth or status. This idea of success and opportunity flows to each of us by birthright and by the nature of God's rights that he bestowed, the rights that God bestowed upon us. That promise, as Reagan spoke of, made us the city on the hill, but it made us great too, from the days of our Declaration of Independence to Abraham Lincoln and to Dr. King. This commitment to equality is sometimes something those who say they're conservative want to walk away from. They just want to hand out the benefits differently We can't let that happen. It may feel good in the moment. We may give money, your money, taxpayer money, to a conservative cause, but in the end, the liberals will get back power, and they will make life difficult for all of us. It was, goodness, almost 30 years ago I was in that Army tank. I can almost fit back in it. I was staring across the German border at the East Germans, the front line of the Soviets. They outnumbered us about 9-1. The men under my command didn't see themselves as victims. They didn't see themselves as woke. They didn't see themselves as needing a safe space. They wanted no advantage because they were Italian or black or an immigrant. They wanted to work. They wanted to learn to assemble and disassemble their M16 and fire their M1 main battle tank, going 20 miles an hour down the road firing in a moving vehicle. They wanted to be good. They wanted to be excellent. They wanted to protect our way of life. They were men of deep character. They didn't talk about what they did. They had a shared commitment to, and they had a confidence in America that we can never lose, and this is how we get back the trust of the American people. I've seen this. I've seen this up close. I've seen America's most senior military leaders obsessed with pronouns and less obsessed with the only noun that matters to a soldier: victory. Some would have us, some would have us abandon this commitment to equality in the name of equity. That's craziness. They would exchange the bravery of the civil rights movement for the cowardice and victimhood of grievance politics. But here's the good news that I will leave you with today. There's signs that they're not succeeding. That gives me enormous hope. Equality, this basic idea that each of us is endowed by our Creator with these unalienable rights and we are equal in the eyes of the Lord, is the antidote to the poisonous lie of equity, wokeness, and identity politics. We're going to do better. And on this, there is no room to give an inch. There's no room to waffle. There's no room for weakness. We should not be ashamed, embarrassed, troubled. We should be proud of the fact we stand for this central idea. And when we do that, we will renew the bonds that those of us together, that tie us together as Americans in ways that no other nation had. I saw this. I traveled to 100 and some countries as Secretary of State. We can sustain this American miracle. Our families, our places of worship will be at the center of that. These places, our schools and our places of worship, are the cradle of the American miracle, not Washington, D.C. We're here today. We sit here today in the swamp, this place where your money goes to be flittered away for purposes that are inconsistent with the very value set that you know and you cherish and you love. It's not about the state or the bureaucracy. It's about being a nation once again, bound by a common set of ideas that have animated us since our very founding. Let's get back there. Conservatives will lead it. Let's fight to preserve not the deep state. I worked with it for 4 years, but a nation that is deeply grounded in the values that make us exceptional. With family as its bedrock, America, freedom, and equality are the thing that will bring us back together and the thing that will convince the next generation that our conservative ideas are the place that have made America so great. When our schools teach kids to be ashamed of America, when they teach the 1619 Project instead of our founding, we're at risk. Xi Jinping is counting on us teaching our kids this crap. You're not going to let it happen. A politicized history of America fronted by the teachers' unions will lock parents out of our schools. And they'll keep so-called gender transitions hidden from parents. This is immoral. This is evil, and it is dangerous. Families may not pass freedom on in the blood, but as President Reagan said, they're the surest and most effective place to raise a generation that is proud to call America home. For me, most crucially, and I think for everyone in this room today, freedom is the story of the capacity of us to practice our faith, our religion. We were founded by religious people seeking that freedom. Let's never walk away from it. When the bars are open and the churches are closed, this is not an America any of us know or love. Christians, Jews, Muslims, being pressured to abandon their beliefs that have been central to their faith for millennia. Small business owners being forced to do things that are inconsistent with their faith, to choose between their faith and their livelihood. We can't let this happen. I worked terribly hard as Secretary of State, and we did good work on religious freedom around the world and here at home. It's a shame. It's a shame that that freedom here at home is under assault in ways that it is in other parts of the world as well. But we know this. They can cancel some things. You're not going to cancel God. Not happening. We can never, and I know none of you will ever give an inch in making sure that this American miracle, this faith, this capacity to worship in the way we choose is at the bedrock of who we are. We've made it clear. The American people have made it clear. It is not enough to say we're different from liberals. We need to be different. We need to act differently. When I walked the halls today and got a chance to meet you, we are different. We're defining our commitments and our words and our deeds. We need true believers who understand the stakes of our fight and who are unafraid to act on it. It requires men and women who are fierce, like everyone in this room today. I know you wouldn't be here if you didn't believe these things. I'm entrusting you, I'm empowering you. Go do it every place you go, in your workplace, at your schools, at the PTA meeting, at the Little League Park. Talk about the very things you talk about when you're in the halls of this place today. I believe a conservative return to what matters will get us back to the right places. I'm convinced that we can do it. We sometimes hear each other talk and we get pretty down. We watch the things that are going on and we become more timid. We must do just the opposite. The American miracle is powerful. You are part of it. You will lead us back to the right place. We are going to restore a conservative America that has at its core our founding ideas of our Judeo-Christian tradition. The fight has started. We're in it. There's no turning back. We have a responsibility to act consistently that every day and stay in the fight. I'll always do that. I know you'll join me. God bless you, and may God bless the great nation of the United States of America. Thank you all. Thanks, everybody.